Hello viewers, welcome to Invest. We're talking about investing, finance, and professional development for today's terms only. The investment we're going to talk today will be Ethereum ETH. It's my second posting of today. With respect to recording time of 12:16 p.m. on Eastern Time, Ethereum currently trading $4,602, up about 1.76% so far. On the overall crypto market, besides Shiba Inu, which is trading on its own momentum right now with the consecutive surge days and subsequently a sell day, right? And think right now is just one entire 24-hour frame of reference for a sell day, and it seems like it's kind of normalizing right now, attempting to be sustained by mainly public investors at the moment, currently down about 2.15%, which we'll dive into the technicals in a bit, right? And on the media front, I would say collectively, it's a little bit more active now because, per our first posting, it was a lot earlier. And also we have the time shift difference with respect to daylight savings as well. On the media front, on this Sunday, it definitely came in a little bit earlier than expected based on historical, trends that we've been capturing collectively. The first news on Bazinga 1 hour ago talked about quantitative analyst Plan B predicts that Bitcoin price may increase by 700% by 2022. And the articles from this quant analyst is basically saying that if the history was going to repeat itself from the 2016 surge, what would that translate in a Fibonacci perspective on surging onto the next target, right? 700% is definitely a very ambitious level, right? Right now, Bitcoin is trading at the $62,000. And with respect to the 700%, we cannot, I don't know if it makes sense for us to think about that. Yes, we surged by 700% historically, but does that mean we're going to surge the same comparable level by 700% as well? Because of the fact that the price, level is a lot higher than before, right? And we also have to adjust with respect to the price sensitivity of investors, right? Knowing the fact that the digit amount is a lot higher, and also with respect to the circulations of the monetary value that needs to go in to surge Bitcoin to get to the next level, per 700% by 2022, the money has to come from somewhere, right? I think 700% might be a little bit ambitious, and I'm not being bearish. It's just logical, right? Like, as the assets becomes larger, it takes more inertia and takes more monetary value to push or have any impact onto the supply and demand dynamics, right? So right now, Bitcoin is demanding a relatively high price, right? Would Ethereum surge by 700%? I think that would be more likely, based on the drag effect and based on because of the entry price sensitivity that will, trigger among whale investors, but also with respect to public investors as well, right? Is a reason why altcoin are a lot more volatile because of the price sensitivity level, right? So 700% is definitely ambitious, but ultimately still bullish, which is something we appreciate. But we have to think about, like, would that make sense? It cannot be just apples to apples, right? Because Bitcoin has transformed and, I would say improved significantly, just 1 year ago, right? In terms of the commercialization, in terms of corporate adoption, in terms of, volume as well, right? So not sure 700% would be, the right level of surge, but I think, northward of where we are definitely makes sense. But it's good to know. So we take that as a grain of salt, obviously, right? We're ultimately in the business of risk mitigation, not prediction. We are not wizards that can predict what's going to happen tomorrow, but we can manage our risk and control your holding or your bleeding, depending on which side of the coins are you on. But good to know, 700%, right? And the next one on CNN, which is something we talked about yesterday, is Eric Adam, which is the New York City new elected mayor. He's has publicly announced that he's gonna be taking his first 3 paychecks in Bitcoin, right? He believes in the value proposition of Bitcoin, obviously, and he believes in the long-term gains that he could potentially get from it as well. He's already mentioned that there are some countries, like El Salvador, for example, that are currently already adopting Bitcoin as a form of transaction. He foresees that globally, well, domestically, let's just focus on New York for now, that is heading that way. So it just makes sense for him to incur some level of risk in his holding, right? He's not a finance person per se. He's the former chief of police. He's a political figure right now. But he does put this as a stamp of approval. He is a reputable figure. And he's in person of power now, like in the position of power as well. That is another great news, right? Which also translates into the surging power that we're seeing right now. And then the next one's talking about on Cointelegraph 2 hours ago, talk about Bitcoin consolidates right below Fibs levels that triggered 2013 all-time high, right? This is what we talked about with respect to surging from $1,000 or $1,000-ish dollars all the way to $12,000, right? If the historical trends in a percentage perspective was to repeat itself, 700% is what most of the analysts on Wall Street are predicting. Great for us, right? I would be more than happy to accept this, to come true. We are all incentivized want to see our price, our holdings of investments to go up from here, right? But ultimately, is it logical? We have to see how that will play out, right? Because there are a lot of macro and microeconomic factors that are hard to triangulate, and we are in economy, and with respect to this value proposition as well, it's still metamorphosizing. It takes time to further innovate, but ultimately on a macro perspective, it's still going to be leaning more toward the upside potential from here, right? So all great news, despite how sometimes it can be a little bit more of a fluff news, right? But I appreciate this, but obviously we are in the business of risk mitigation. We are detectives of understanding if this is going to be the case, right? 700% might be a stretch, but if it's true, then amazing. Then we kind of have to go back to the drawing board to understand what are we missing, right? We are oftentimes going back to the drawing board, improving, constantly educating ourselves to understand how we change our perspective in investments, but still stay within the frame of technical analysis, still stay within the frame of logics and risk management levels, right? Then the last one that I see here is with respect to the fork days for Bitcoin, with respect to the Taproot upgrades that's closing in, and that should technically translate into some buying pressure. With the anticipatory pressure from investors waiting for this to be executed, right? So this is something we talked about. So we should technically foresee some positive pressure, which also translates into the current buying pressure of up about 1% so far, right? And the last one is something that we've already talked about again. Elon Musk to sell 10% of his Tesla holding to buy Bitcoin. Let's take a look at with respect to there. Why can't I change this real quick? Let me see. So this is the poll that Elon Musk has posted. This is 22 hours ago now. It seems like it's not really changing much. We're basically 2 hours away from the confirmation of what's going to happen tomorrow, right? I think it could be an interesting one. I look forward to seeing how the pre-market looks like. It seems like there will be some selling pressure tomorrow on Tesla stock specifically, because it seems like, based on public consensus, with this close to 4 million, like 3.4 million votes with 1 hour left, that most people, 60% of people, are, incentivized to see Elon Musk sell $25 billion of shares of Tesla stocks, right? So with that imbalance, we should trigger some sort of a sell-off. And also on a technical front, we know how stretched we have already been already. So this could technically, translate into potentially anti-correlation effects, because Tesla is kind of like an index stock as well. Large cap, and there's a lot of, industry agnostic components about Tesla as well. It's not just a car company, it's an energy company, right? So that could technically translate into some selling pressure and then some buying pressure onto crypto specifically. So that's pretty much on the news front. Let's take a look at the technicals. Right now, we are still leaped up and away. It's up at 66 out of 70. We are fusing together. And I think we at the hair and the verge of breaking it. And we've been surging for a long time now, ever since the beginning of October. So we've been surging for like a month. A little bit over a month, I would say. So right now, the risk is relatively high, despite the positive news that we've been hearing so far, right? Again, news are old news, so something to think about. I would just hold until Ethereum hits 25,000. Let's just hope that the 700% comes true. Ultimately, it's still speculations. I'm not a wizard, nor anybody can be a wizard on predicting what's really going to happen, right? There are a lot of exogenous factors that's out of our control sometimes. But I think right now, would I be incurring some risk or additional risk? I don't think so, because I already have a large holding. So I'll probably just wait off until we come back down to the next identified levels that we've talked about. So with respect to Bitcoin, we're just hovering on a sideways fashion, right? Sustaining at the above $60,000 levels at the 57 out of 70. And if we break it, and I think tomorrow could be an interesting day, right? I don't think Elon Musk has confirmed or said anything about like, oh, if I'm going to sell Tesla, the 10% of it, I'm going to use it to buy Bitcoin. He didn't say anything about that. But people are speculating. That's why people are buying. But ultimately, 25 billion is not like crazy amount if you talk about like the entirety of the crypto market, right? It's still like a very, very small portion of the pie. So, would I be buying now? I think Bitcoin, if you want to choose which one, I think Bitcoin might be a better bet in comparison to Ethereum at the moment, because Ethereum is a lot more stretched in comparison to Bitcoin. And we're basically betting, do we stay above 60 or do we stay below 60? Right, and I think in the long-term perspective, we're going to go way higher, 700%, I guess. But right now, in the risk management perspective, I would just wait until we come back down a little bit as the RSI cools down to below 35. So technically, we have some room to run down to, per the technicals, right? Ideally, going back to below, like close to about 50, which is matching with this red candle here, and then ideally matching with the 48 if we break the 50, which is a relatively good level. So something to look out for in a risk management perspective. Dogecoin is still bearish right now at the 53 out of 70. Ideally, buy at the 23 to the 20 cents would be much more logical. Cardano right now, we're basically hovering between $2 and 182 or 187 per the technicals. We're fusing together, so I think we're on the upward of the MACD line versus the signal line. So technically, this is still we're just consolidating, not doing much, struggling to be above $2 or staying below to get to the 187. So I think if we break below the $2, we're gonna go to 187. If we go above it, we might go all the way. That's the highest, the 215, based on the technical front. Solana right now is still surging and basically sustained by public investors trying to break all-time high all over again. And right now we are leaning more of I see a little bit of a curvature right now. So we still at the 70 out of 70, so you know what that means. So ideally just wait for it to cool down on the RSI front to be below 35, and that's somewhere around like the 133 or 113 if you may, based on the frame of how much of the level we will be dropping going forward. XRP did break about 120, so congratulations. We're basically going to the next level to 130 as the next leap. Right now, we're basically hovering between the levels. It's either 110, if you break 110, you go to 101. If you break 120, you go above 130. So technically, the surging pressure right now that's really why that is, but we're still overbought. So the likelihood of actually getting to 130, I would say it's a bit of a stretch. And you could see that we canceled out multiple times, 1, 2, 3 times, and a couple of times here as well. So I don't think we're going to get to 130. We might get to the peak 125 and then sell back down from here. And then Polkadot right now is still bearish. We are at the 70 out of 70. Selling back down to ideally coming back to the $30 to the 25 would be much more logical level to dollar cost average at. Algorand, bearish still. We're forming a curvature downward right now. So ideally buy at the 160 all the way to 152 would be more logical. Shiba Inu is still selling up. We're still at the bearish signal, 56 out of 70. So ideally buy at, again, right? We will sell back down to the 2825 all the way to somewhere around like the 900, if we may, for Shiba Inu. So again, I don't think it's time is running out. I think we have like 3.4 million people voted. I don't think the likelihood of actually completing and being in the middle or the support going to no, I think will be relatively unlikely. I voted no actually because I hold a lot of Tesla, so but I get it. I hold a lot of Ethereum as well, but I'd rather my holding in Tesla is a little bit higher in comparisons to Ethereum by a lot actually. So I guess I do have a personal bias, but I don't think it makes sense to sell because Tesla still has a lot more room to run up to. But ultimately, I don't know. I don't know Elon. I don't know his personal incentive. So good luck to him if that's what he wants to do with his money, right? In respect to risk management level, per our discussion, below 35 on the RSI scale and preliminary golden cross, these are the identified levels that we should ideally be looking into. And feel free to take a picture. This is, again, my personal conservatism and my level of risk management levels, right? So hopefully this is helpful. Not the perfect one, but it's worked out for me. And feel free to give me any questions if you have any questions specifically on this front. Happy to address them, and stay tuned for some come up. Take care. Bye.